The automatic doors of Beijing Capital International Airport slid open as Keanu Reeves stepped inside, the cool burst of conditioned air brushing across his face. For a moment, he stood still, taking in the massive terminal glowing with layered neon lights, digital billboards, and the constant flow of rushing travelers. Even for someone who had traveled the world countless times, Beijing had an unmistakable energy, fast, sharp, buzzing like electricity beneath the surface. Keanu had flown in under the radar, avoiding major media announcements. The purpose of his visit was simple: a private meeting with a Chinese director about a secretive film project rumored to blend Mandarin myth with Western cyber action. But as he walked into the VIP corridor reserved for high-profile arrivals, something didn't feel normal. The atmosphere felt heavier, as if the air itself held a quiet tension. He adjusted the strap of his black leather carry-on bag and moved forward, sunglasses hiding his eyes from the harsh airport lights. A pair of airport staff greeted him politely, but Keanu noticed their smiles didn't reach their eyes. Their gazes shifted quickly to someone behind him, then back to their tablets. Nervous, distracted, strange. Keanu brushed it off. Jet lag, probably. Yet deep inside, a subtle instinct stirred. The same instinct he'd grown to trust over decades of traveling through places where fame could either protect or endanger him. Something was off. He continued down the VIP lane, the sound of rolling luggage echoing in the wide hallway. LED advertisements flashed along the walls, luxury watches, new smartphones, a heroic figure climbing a mountain. But every time the screen's bright light reflected off the polished floor, Keanu thought he saw shadows shifting in the distance. Security officers stood in unusually tight formation near the customs counters, not the relaxed posture he had seen on previous trips. These officers were alert, stiff, scanning the crowd with sharp, nervous precision. Keanu slowed his pace. His hand instinctively brushed the edge of his passport inside his coat pocket, like checking if it were still there. No reason to worry. Everything was in order. His staff had handled all paperwork. Still, a faint prickle crawled up the back of his neck. A small group of travelers across the hall whispered while glancing at him. One of them lifted a phone, pretending to text, but clearly recording. Keanu gave a polite nod but turned away, craving anonymity more than ever. Ahead, the VIP immigration booth glowed with a cold white light. Only one passenger was in front of him. When the officer scanned that man's passport, the machine beeped sharply, too sharply. The officer frowned, typed rapidly, then waved the man through with a forced smile. Then came Keanu's turn. The immigration officer, a middle-aged man with a rigid posture, lifted Keanu's passport. His eyes widened, almost imperceptibly. A tiny red indicator flashed. Even before the immigration officer's uneasy request settled in the air, a presence stirred somewhere across the terminal. Two figures, sitting quietly in the shadowed corner of the VIP observation lounge, lifted their eyes at the exact same moment Keanu Reeves stepped into the hold for verification zone. They weren't ordinary airport personnel. The first was Officer Mei Lin, one of China's most respected airport security specialists. Tall, calm, her black tactical uniform tailored with precision. A jet-black bob framed her face, and her expression remained unreadable, trained from years of high-pressure incidents. She had escorted diplomats, apprehended smugglers, and negotiated hostage situations. But today, something felt different, even to her. Beside her sat Agent Karen Brooks, an FBI liaison stationed in Beijing, under a quiet intergovernmental agreement. She was African-American, sharp-eyed, and carried herself with the poise of someone who had spent her life navigating both bureaucracy and danger. She wore a dark blazer over a tactical holster hidden beneath, her badge clipped discreetly inside her jacket. Her voice, when she spoke, was low and controlled. "He's here," Karen murmured into her earpiece. Mei Lin followed her gaze. Keanu stood by the counter, shoulders relaxed but eyes alert as the immigration officer whispered urgently to his supervisor. A strange combination. Keanu's calm charisma against the stiff, nervous energy of the airport staff. Karen tapped the screen of her tablet again. A photograph of Keanu appeared, along with several files, most of them sealed. "You still think he's connected?" Mei Lin asked, keeping her tone neutral. His digital footprint activated the flag. Somebody accessed restricted data using credentials that trace back to his alias. Whether he did it, or someone made it look like he did, we need to know. Mei Lin studied Keanu through the glass. Something in her instincts, the same instincts that had kept her alive during operations, prickled with doubt. "That man doesn't look like someone hiding a crime," she said quietly. Karen didn't look up. "People don't always look like their crimes." Still, a small crease formed on Karen's brow. Even she wasn't fully convinced. The timing, the data breach, the false passport pings, it all felt too clean, too convenient. A sudden alert buzzed on Mei Lin's wrist device. Secondary flag triggered. High priority target. Karen's eyes narrowed. That's not supposed to happen. Once he's in questioning, the system shouldn't reflag him. Unless someone wants him detained as long as possible, Mei replied. The two women exchanged a heavy glance. Whatever was happening to Keanu wasn't routine, it was manipulated. Down below, Keanu noticed the two women watching him. He didn't know who they were, but their attention wasn't casual. Their eyes tracked his movements with intent. For the first time since landing, he felt a pulse of genuine concern. The immigration officer's fingers trembled slightly as he held Keanu's passport. He tried to hide it by adjusting his glasses. But the nervous gesture didn't escape Keanu's sharp, decades-trained observational instincts. What should have been a simple scan and stamp had turned into an uncomfortable silence stretching far too long. Behind the counter, the officer's monitor flashed with lines of red text. Codes, alerts, warnings. Each one appeared for a split second before vanishing, replaced by even more severe notifications. He had never seen this level of alert triggered by a single traveler, let alone a world-famous actor. "Sir, please wait," the officer repeated, his voice a little too formal, too stiff. Keanu remained outwardly calm, though he felt a slow tightening in his chest. "Is there a problem?" he asked gently. The officer didn't answer. Instead, he leaned toward a colleague sitting at the next station, whispering in Mandarin. The colleague's eyes snapped toward Keanu, widening before he quickly masked his expression and pretended to return to his paperwork. The atmosphere shifted like a sudden change in barometric pressure. Lights hummed louder. Footsteps echoed more sharply. Voices blended into a low, tense buzz. Keanu glanced behind him. Two security guards had quietly positioned themselves near the exit of the VIP lane, blocking the way out. Whether intentionally or strategically, he couldn't tell. He inhaled slowly. Not panic, not fear, just awareness. A uniformed supervisor appeared beside the booth, walking briskly, shoulders pulled tight with authority. He carried a digital verification tablet under his arm, the screen already active with Keanu's passport information. "Mr. Reeves," the supervisor said with a practiced smile that didn't match his eyes, "we just need to run an additional security check. Routine, just routine." Keanu nodded politely. "Of course." Routine or not, the supervisor's eyes kept darting toward the upper-level observation deck, where officers Mei Lin and Karen Brooks were now descending the stairs with calm intensity. The supervisor pressed his tablet against the scanner. A soft beep, then another. Then a harsh, metallic alarm sound, like something from a nuclear warning system. Alert, high-security match detected. Restriction code 777B. Request immediate special clearance. The screen flashed red, bathing the supervisor's face in a ghostly glow. The officer behind the counter stiffened. "Sir, this is serious." Passengers nearby were beginning to notice. A woman whispered to her husband. A tourist pulled out his phone, pretending to scroll while secretly recording. A businessman stopped pretending to read his newspaper. Keanu kept his voice level. "Can someone explain what's going on?" Before anyone could answer, a message popped onto the supervisor's tablet. Urgent, encrypted, and flashing with international protocol symbols. He exhaled sharply. The lady officer stepped in. The hallway behind the secondary screening door was colder than the rest of the airport, sterile, silent, the kind of silence that made every footstep echo like a warning. Keanu was led inside by two uniformed guards, their expressions unreadable. Fluorescent lights buzzed above, casting harsh white shadows across the floor tiles. Keanu took a seat in a metal chair placed at the center of the room. He set down his carry-on bag quietly, his mind calm but alert. Something intentional was happening here. Too coordinated, too prepared. The guard stood stiffly by the door as if awaiting a signal. And it came. The door swung open with a firm metallic click. Two women stepped inside, their presence so authoritative that the entire temperature of the room seemed to drop. Officer Mei Lin entered first. Tall, disciplined, moving with the quiet confidence of someone who could command a room with a single glance. Her black tactical uniform bore the insignia of China's elite airport security division. A sleek communication device sat on her shoulder, blinking softly. Behind her came FBI liaison agent Karen Brooks. Her stride was controlled, professional, but carried a gravity that suggested she'd been flown through dozens of crisis zones. She wore a dark blazer over a tactical vest, and her badge flashed briefly in the fluorescent light. Her eyes, sharp, calculated, unwavering, locked instantly onto Keanu. The guards stepped back instinctively, almost deferentially, knowing these two were of higher authority. Mei Lin spoke first, her voice smooth but firm. "Mr. Reeves, thank you for your cooperation. Please remain seated." Karen followed, her tone colder, edged with interrogation experience. "We'll be asking you a few questions about your arrival and your recent activities." Keanu lifted his hands calmly. "I'm happy to answer questions, but I need to know what this is about. I've done nothing wrong." The two women exchanged a look, silent communication, quick and precise. Mei Lin opened a tablet, swiping through a set of encrypted files. "Your passport triggered multiple security flags, highly unusual ones," Karen added, "and your name is currently linked to an active international cyber investigation." Keanu raised an eyebrow slightly. Not shocked, just disappointed. "I think there's been a mistake." "Possibly," Karen admitted, though her face stayed unreadable. "But the type of alert your passport triggered is not a mistake we can ignore." The tension in the room deepened. Karen stepped closer, her voice lowering. "Mr. Reeves, your arrival matched the timestamp of a digital breach involving sensitive U.S. data. Someone gained access using credentials connected to one of your alias accounts." Keanu's jaw tightened. "That's impossible." Mei Lin watched him closely, not aggressively, but with a trained intuition. She had handled criminals, diplomats, spies. She could read people, and nothing in Keanu's demeanor resembled a guilty man. Keanu rose slowly from the metal chair, the legs scraping softly against the cold tile floor. The two officers, Mei Lin and Agent Karen Brooks, watched him closely, but neither moved to grab him yet. They didn't need to. The tension alone held the room still, as if every molecule in the air were waiting for something to snap. Keanu's voice remained calm, but there was steel beneath it. "Before we take another step, I want to understand why I'm being treated like a threat." Karen's expression didn't change. "You're not being treated like a threat. You're being treated according to protocol." "Protocol doesn't usually involve secret rooms," Keanu replied. Mei Lin stepped forward, her tone gentler but equally firm. "Mr. Reeves, please understand, our system didn't just flag you. It triggered a Tier 7 clearance alert. That level only reacts to individuals directly tied to national or international security breaches." Keanu blinked, processing the absurdity. "I'm an actor." "Yes," Karen said, "which is why this situation is even more concerning." The guards in the room shifted, exchanging uneasy glances. Even they could feel that something didn't add up. A soft tapping echoed from outside, the faint rhythm of hurried footsteps. The hallway beyond the door buzzed with sharp, whispered Mandarin, punctuated by the occasional static burst from radios. Something bigger was unfolding just outside. Mei Lin continued, "We are following procedure, but I agree. Something about this is irregular." Karen shot her a sharp look, but Mei didn't back down. "I've worked security here for 15 years. This alert pattern is not common. Someone pushed this through." Keanu finally spoke the thought that had been forming since the moment he stepped off the plane. "Someone is framing me." The officers didn't respond, but neither did they dismiss the idea. Outside the one-way glass window, a crowd of passengers had begun to gather. Keanu could see blurred shapes pressing phones against the glass, trying to film through the reflection. Security guards pushed them back, but more people kept arriving, whispers spreading like wildfire. "Is that Keanu Reeves? Why is he inside the detention room? Is he being arrested?" Their voices were muffled, but the panic in their tones seeped clearly through the glass. Karen exhaled sharply. "This is getting out of control." Mei Lin tapped her communicator. "Shut down the viewing corridor. Redirect passengers immediately." Keanu sat back down, trying to remain grounded. "Look," he said slowly, "you both seem like reasonable people. And this isn't reasonable." Karen leaned in, her voice low. "Reasonable or not, the system is telling us you're connected to a breach, a major one. Until we confirm otherwise, we can't release you." At that exact moment, her earpiece crackled. "Agent Brooks, additional alert received. Subject's identity match confirmed with secondary database." Karen froze. So did Mei Lin. Keanu felt the room shrink. A cold silence settled over the room after the voice on Karen's earpiece confirmed the identity match. Even the fluorescent lights seemed to buzz quieter, as if the entire airport were holding its breath. Karen straightened, her jaw tightening. The calm professionalism in her eyes shifted into something grimmer, duty mixed with disbelief. Mei Lin, usually an unshakable pillar of discipline, looked troubled for the first time. Keanu sat still, hands resting calmly on his knees, but his pulse thudded quietly in his ears. He'd been in tense situations before, public controversies, dangerous fan encounters, even legal misunderstandings. But this felt orchestrated. Karen began pacing slowly, one hand on her hip where her holster rested beneath her blazer. She wasn't pointing fingers, not yet, but she'd entered the mental state of someone preparing to say something heavy. Finally, she stopped, turned to him, and spoke. "Mr. Reeves, the reason your passport triggered a Tier 7 alert is because your name has been linked to an active case involving an international cyber espionage operation." Keanu blinked. "That's impossible." Karen continued, voice unwavering. 3 nights ago, a restricted U.S. research facility was breached. Its digital archives were accessed. Highly classified data, blueprints, experimental biotech reports, and internal communications were extracted. Mei Lin added softly, "The breach route used an encrypted identity code traced to one of your alias accounts, an account used for private travel and security clearance when you're filming overseas." Keanu frowned deeply. "Those alias accounts aren't public. Barely a handful of people even know about them." Karen nodded. "Which is what makes this so concerning." She placed a tablet on the table in front of him. A series of digital logs glowed on the screen, entry codes, timestamps, encrypted keys, and at the top, the red-lined label. "Access initiated by KR-49er Reeves alias." Keanu stared at it. The room seemed to close in around him. "That's not mine," he said firmly. "Someone copied it. Someone forged it." "Possibly," Karen admitted, crossing her arms. "But until we can prove that, we have to assume the breach is tied to you." A sharp knock at the door jolted everyone. One of the guards cracked it open. "Chief wants an update," he said in Mandarin, glancing nervously at Keanu. "Media is gathering outside Terminal 2. They're already speculating." Karen closed her eyes briefly. "Of course they are." Mei Lin stepped closer to Keanu, lowering her voice so only he could hear. "Be honest with me. Is there anyone who would want to sabotage you? Someone with access to your travel information?" Keanu hesitated. Not because he was hiding something, but because the truth was complicated. The entertainment world was large, political, and full of invisible rivalries. But he couldn't think of anyone capable of something this sophisticated. "I don't know," he admitted quietly. The public confrontation. The moment the handcuffs clicked around Keanu Reeves's wrists, the energy inside the interrogation room shifted from tense to explosive. Not because of anything he did, but because of everything happening outside. A sudden roar of voices echoed down the hallway. Shouting, footsteps, the unmistakable frenzy of a crowd swelling far beyond security control. Karen's head snapped toward the one-way glass. "Please tell me that corridor is locked down." Mei-Lin pressed her communicator. "Control, report status on VIP wing." Static crackled back. Then a panicked voice responded. "Negative, press breach on level 2. They pushed past the barrier. Repeat, we've lost containment." The guards in the room tensed. Keanu exhaled slowly, the reality sinking in. Whatever they thought they were containing had already exploded into the public. Karen whispered a curse under her breath. She turned to Keanu. "You need to stay behind us. No sudden moves." He lifted his cuffed hands lightly. "Not like I have much range of motion." But even in this insane moment, his tone remained calm. So calm that Mei-Lin shot him an almost admiring glance. Most people would be shouting, panicking, demanding answers. Not him. His stillness only made him look more innocent. The door burst open. A young officer stumbled in, breathless and red-faced. "Ma'am, the media is flooding the terminal. Social platforms are already live streaming. They think—" He hesitated, swallowing nervously. "They think the Chinese government has arrested Keanu Reeves for espionage." Karen pressed a hand to her forehead. Unbelievable. This wasn't supposed to leak. Mei-Lin tightened her jaw. It didn't leak. Someone wanted this public. Through the doorway, the noise intensified. Dozens of reporters shouting questions. Camera shutters snapping like gunfire. Fans screaming his name. Others yelling accusations. "Keanu, are you guilty?" "Sir, what did you steal?" "Is this political?" "Keanu, look this way." "Is the U.S. involved?" "Is China holding you hostage?" The mixture of fear, excitement, and chaos turned the terminal into a chaotic stage. Karen grabbed Keanu gently by the arm, not rough, but firm enough to guide him. "We need to move, now." They stepped out into the hallway. Instantly, the flashing lights of dozens of cameras exploded in their faces. Paparazzi had somehow breached security, squeezing through the corridor with tripods, microphones, and phones held as high as possible. The moment Keanu appeared, a deafening wave of sound hit him. "Keanu! Look here! Why are you in handcuffs? What did you do? Is this about America? Is this about China? Are you being extradited?" Security officers strained to push the crowd back, their arms outstretched, faces strained with effort. But the mob was relentless, driven by adrenaline, curiosity, and the shock of seeing a global icon in restraints. The hallway leading to the transport bay was colder, darker, and far quieter than the chaos they'd just escaped. But the silence wasn't comforting. It was the kind of silence that felt organized, prepared, like someone had planned this corridor to be empty for this exact moment. 2 armed Chinese officers walked ahead, clearing the path. Mei-Lin stayed by Keanu's side, her steps measured and tense. Behind them, Agent Karen Brooks kept her hand close to her holster, eyes scanning every reflective surface for potential threats. Keanu walked calmly, the metal cuffs biting gently into his wrists with each movement. He wasn't resisting, but the cold steel was a constant reminder that his normal life, his freedom, had abruptly been snatched away. "Eyes front," Karen murmured, guiding him around a corner. "We're almost there." Mei-Lin added softly, "Do not speak unless spoken to. Cameras are watching." Keanu didn't lift his head, but he noticed them. Black half-domes fixed to the ceiling every few meters, small red LEDs glowing like eyes, watching his every step, recording his every breath. When they reached the secure transport holding area, the atmosphere changed again. The walls were reinforced steel. Heavy doors sat on magnetic locks. A thick layer of frost-like cold seeped from the ventilation system. This wasn't a typical airport security wing. This was a detention zone built for high-risk individuals. The moment the doors slid open, a flood of harsh white light spilled across the floor. A team of uniformed officers stood waiting, lined up with chilling precision. Their faces were unreadable. Their hands rested firmly on their belts. One stepped forward, Commander Zhao, the head of the airport's Special Security Division. His face carried no emotion as he looked at Keanu. Only duty. "Mr. Reeves," he began formally, "by joint order of the United States Federal Bureau of Investigation and the Chinese National Security Bureau, you are now classified as a detained person of international concern." Mei Lin kept her gaze on the floor. Karen stayed rigid, hands clasped behind her back. She hated this part. Keanu could see it in the subtle tension in her jaw, but protocol left no room for personal opinion. Commander Zhao continued, his voice echoing through the metallic chamber. "You will be held for immediate questioning regarding your alleged involvement in the unauthorized breach of protected digital archives." Keanu's eyes narrowed. "Alleged," he repeated sharply. "You know I didn't do this." Karen looked away, but Mei Lin's eyes flickered, just for a moment, with sympathy. Two officers approached Keanu from either side. "Resume standard procedure," Zhao ordered. They grasped Keanu's arms, not violently but firmly, professionally. One officer removed his carry-on bag. The other inspected it on a steel table. Every item was documented, photographed, and sealed in evidence bags. Karen took a slow breath and stepped closer. Keanu is pushed through a narrow steel doorway, escorted by the two Chinese officers, the tall woman with sharp eyes and the shorter one with a calm but unreadable expression. Behind them, two FBI agents follow closely, their footsteps echoing in the dim corridor. The air grows colder, the lighting dimmer, as the group descends a tight stairwell that spirals deeper and deeper underground. Keanu's heartbeat thuds inside his chest. "This isn't an interrogation room," he mutters. "No," the tall officer replies. "It's where we keep people like you." The stairway opens into a massive underground chamber, low ceilings, concrete walls, humming fluorescent lights. On one side stands a row of reinforced glass boxes, each with metal bars running through the center like a cage. On the other side is a long metal table filled with equipment, computers, monitors, and stacks of case files. The moment Keanu steps inside, the heavy door slams shut behind him with a metallic bang. The shorter officer turns to him. "Take a seat." Keanu refuses. "I'm not sitting until you tell me what this is really about. I know I'm not under arrest. You're hiding something." The two Chinese officers exchange a look, and then the FBI agent steps forward. Agent Sullivan, the one who had been silent until now. "You're right," Sullivan says. "You're not under arrest in the legal sense, but you're involved in something far bigger than you understand." Keanu's jaw tightens. "Then explain it." The tall officer walks toward the long table, picks up a thick file, and tosses it in front of him. The cover reads, "Project Dragon Echo, Subject K-47. The name sends a chill through Keanu's spine. "What the hell is this?" Sullivan sighs. "You don't know what you carry, Reeves, but someone does, someone who wants it back." The shorter officer taps on a monitor, bringing up images, thermal scans, satellite images, and photos of Keanu walking through various airports in the last few months. "We've been tracking movements around you, not because you committed a crime, but because something is following you." Keanu steps back, shaking his head. "This is insane." "Is it?" the tall officer snaps. "Do you remember the package delivered to your hotel in Tokyo? The one you thought was fan mail?" Keanu's eyes widen. Inside had been a strange metallic shard, etched with symbols he didn't understand. He hadn't told anyone. He'd put it in his bag, planning to give it to a museum or historian. He thought nothing of it. "Someone has been tracking that object," Sullivan says, "and that someone is willing to kill hundreds to retrieve it." The officers step closer around Keanu, forming a tight circle. "You're not the target," the shorter officer says softly. "The object is." Keanu swallows hard. "So what happens now?" Sullivan folds his arms. "Now, Reeves, you're going to tell us exactly where the shard is. The room falls silent. Keanu doesn't answer. Not yet. Silence hangs inside the cold, underground chamber. The hum of the fluorescent lights seems louder now, vibrating in Keanu's skull. Agent Sullivan waits with arms crossed, eyes sharp. The two Chinese officers stand like statues, one stern, one calm, both unblinking. Keanu inhales slowly. "You think I brought the shard with me?" Sullivan doesn't move. "We know you did." Keanu lets out a breath through his nose. "Well, you're wrong." The tall Chinese officer steps forward instantly, her boots striking the floor with a harsh echo. "Do not lie to us. You have no idea what is at stake." But Keanu does know. He has known since Tokyo. Months ago, the shard began to glow faintly at night, pulsating like a heartbeat. When he held it, he felt warmth, almost alive. It terrified him, so he hid it somewhere no one would think to look, not even the agents standing in front of him now. Sullivan speaks first. "Keanu, 3 governments are watching this airport. 2 intelligence agencies have agents positioned in the terminals. A foreign extremist group is already in Beijing trying to track your movements. If they get the shard—" "I know," Keanu interrupts quietly. "I know how dangerous it is." The shorter officer's voice softens. "Then help us. Tell us where it is." Keanu lifts his head, meeting her gaze. "I can't." Shock flickers across Sullivan's face. "Why the hell not?" Keanu's voice is steady now. "Because I don't trust any of you. Not the FBI, not the Chinese ministry, not whoever else is listening from the shadows." The tall officer snaps. "You're playing a very dangerous game." "Maybe," Keanu says. "But so are you." The shorter officer steps closer, her tone calm but intense. "Keanu, if you walk out of here with that shard hidden somewhere, the world won't stay the same. People will come for you. They won't stop." Keanu nods slowly. "I'm aware." Sullivan clenches his jaw. "Then you leave us no choice." He signals to the officers. They begin moving in, preparing restraints. But Keanu raises a hand. "Wait!" Everyone freezes. Keanu takes a deep breath, then speaks clearly. "I'll tell you one thing, and only one thing. The shard is not in this airport. It's not even in this country." The tall officer stiffens. "What?" "It left Beijing before I even boarded the plane from Hong Kong," Keanu says. "I mailed it to someone I trust. Someone far from all this." Sullivan's eyes widen. "Who?" Keanu smirks, the first hint of defiance he's shown. "If I tell you, they'll no longer be safe." The shorter officer exchanges a worried look with Sullivan. "This complicates everything." Keanu nods. "Exactly." A long silence follows, heavy, uncertain. Finally, Sullivan lowers his hand. "Then you're coming with us." Keanu looks up, calm and determined. "Fine. But understand one thing. I'm not your prisoner. I'm your only link to stopping whoever is hunting that shard." The door behind him unlocks with a heavy metallic click.